art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy of creating. So if you draw, paint, write, dance, sing, craft, play air guitar, or even sculpt using nothing but mashed potatoes, consider yourself an artist and join the conversation. For the next half hour, meet the artist, learn about their inspiration, and enjoy the beauty of creativity. Welcome to ARTalk with John Cole Artist. Well, all right. Good evening, everyone. It's John Cole Artist live from Drake, Massachusetts. And with me tonight, I am very happy to be speaking with Sheryl Rogers, who's live from Sedona, Arizona. But before I get to her, I want to make sure, once again, we turn on the REM pod, because if we're lucky, maybe we will be visited this evening. Right, Sheryl?
Yeah, well, we've been calling them in. We've been asking them for a visit, so we'll see.
Yeah. Now, folks, I just want to let you know, when I went live tonight, for some reason, it did not appear as if it pushed to Facebook, and I don't know why that is. So if you're happen to try to get on Facebook tonight and you can't see the broadcast, I apologize for that, but I can assure you it is going out on YouTube. So if you're trying to watch on Facebook and you can't see this, I'm telling you this. I don't know why, because you're not hearing it anyway, so I apologize. So Sheryl, thank you so much for joining me this evening or this afternoon, because I know it's a couple hours earlier in Arizona. But thank you for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me. I was a little nervous. This is my first interview, so if I flub up, everyone, yeah, give me a break. But yeah, be kind. Yes, but now I'm excited. I'm excited to see where we go with this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I think, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on tonight is I've known you for probably about a year or so, right?
Just about, maybe a year ago, January.
Yeah, and we met online. We met through mutual acquaintances through a program that we're both involved with. And I remember you talking a little bit about the fact that you were an artist, a local artist there in Sedona. And I remember it was my wife specifically brought home what you call an energy portrait, which I thought was interesting because I hadn't seen anything like that before. So that was one thing that I found was really kind of an interesting take on, I guess, combining the spiritual aspect of what I think we all kind of do as artists with physical media, right?
Yes.
And what do you use, like pastels or something?
I use oil pastels. And so when I learned, my intuition kind of developed at the same time as my creativity and my painting, which is not uncommon, as most of my paintings are through my intuition. I consider my paintings channeled. And so I kept asking my guides and my angels, like, how do I take my intuition and my creativity and combine them in a different way? And I was at the airport and I had a pad of paper and my oil pastels. And I've never been trained in how to use them. I just do whatever comes through me. And all of a sudden it was like this download or something. And it was this big, huge aha moment. I went, oh, wow, cool. And I don't tap into people's energy without their permission. So I did the flight. I drew the flight. When I got home, I did my mom and my dad and my sister, my cousin, my aunt, any friend who would let me draw them. And then the lady on the flight home next to me, I'm like, can I draw you? And the intuitive information that came through was spot on. And I'm like, I've got something here. It's unique. It's fun. People love them. So you walk away, and unfortunately I didn't bring them with me today, but you walk away with the actual work of art that represents your energy field.
Right, which is really unique, because I've never seen anything like that before. So you're basically, are you interpreting what you're seeing and then putting it into color, or are you? I mean, how does that process work for you?
So again, I asked my angels, guides, and masters to give me the information the person sitting in front of me most needs to hear. And a drawing that represents that they will understand and resonate with. And then it just kind of flows through me, where I think I'm going to go to the right and my hand goes to the left. I'm reaching for a yellow crayon and I pull out a blue one. So it's just, everything's guided, and I don't stop the flow. And as I'm drawing, information comes out my mouth.
Right.
And I ask them to like skip my brain so that my perceptions are not involved as much as possible. I don't want my perceptions involved. And it's all about the person sitting in front of me.
That's cool. I mean, that really is a very, very cool thing. Yeah. And you do other things as well. You do other paintings as well.
Yeah. So again, even my paintings, everything that I do is what I would say channeled, or there's a spiritual connection to it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm doing when I paint. I've never been trained, other than my first painting teacher taught me this type of painting. So I've never had any technical background or teachings. So when a face shows up, it's channeled. I have nothing to do with it. I think you have a painting there where there's a face that showed up. This one, there's a couple faces. There's like on the left, you can kind of see a floating orange face. Right there. I call this one the fifth dimension, because it's definitely a multi-dimensional piece. This was very early on when I was painting, and I must have done that in class. I don't remember much about it when I painted it. Just when I stood back, I went, oh, wow, look, there's these beings and what looks to me like somebody in a robe, like kind of a regal robe, and then just these multi-dimensions. And again, so that was all channeled. I had no forethought on what was going to come through. Right. And that was one of the angels. I did kind of put in my head that I wanted to paint an angel. And there were 3 paintings, very angelic. One of my friends purchased all 3 as a set. Mm-hmm. So that was one of my angel paintings. And this one, I remember painting this, and I was just having so much fun. And then these wolves, you can see on the right-hand side, there's like three blue wolves. And then on the left, there's kind of an arching one that looks kind of like the wolf spirit. Right. With this falcon type figure. And if we could, I don't know if you can, if you turned it clockwise one way, there's a Buddha sitting right in the middle of that painting. I consider this one a 4-way painting, because every time you turn it the other way. Yeah. So see, right in the middle of there's the circle, and then just to the left of the circle, there's like a Buddha. Oh, right in here? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and every time you turn that painting, it looks like a different painting. And so when I painted that, I turned it a lot while I was painting. So there was no real direction until I was finishing up and I saw the wolves. Wow. Yeah, that's Into the Mystic. That is one of my favorite. This one, I went to Malta, which if you don't know, it's off the boot. It's an island off the boot of Italy. Mm-hmm. It's said to have one of the earliest civilizations. And when they would bury people, and again, just like the temples, they're not really sure how they did this, but they would dig. So there's these big caverns that they built under the ground, and the burial sites, and they would have stairs that would lead to nowhere. So if people were trying to rob the graves, they would just fall. And they've tried to measure how deep they are, and they're so deep that they can't find that. Mm-hmm. So when I got back from Malta, I painted this, and it reminded me of one of those burial sites. On that first level, you can see what it looks like for me, like the priests and doing the ceremony, and then all the other people up on the stairways as it goes higher. And so that was Malta. Wow. And I can't think of it. I wish I could remember what the tombs were called. But we went down, and the group that I went with, we got a special pass to go into that area, and we were toning for about 20 minutes. You were toning? What's that? Toning. So when you make sounds with your voice, and you just go, and you just kind of, whatever sound wants to come up. And so everybody's doing their own sound, and there's this vibration inside these walls. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And you could feel the vibrations.
So it's like inside. So, because I'm not familiar. So did you say that these were caverns, or were they?
So they like dug out the earth.
Okay.
And so they would have stairs that would just drop off to nowhere. So if you were trying to rob the gravesites, you would just fall because it's so dark in there, you didn't know where the stairway ended. Yeah. And they had there would be a stairway here and then a stairway here, and just it was like really bizarre how they built them, and they're very interesting, and it was very cool.
Yeah, it sounds like that definitely inspired. I can see that just with that description. I think if you hadn't even given me that description of that location, which is really interesting about this particular painting, and let me bring this back up again. What's really interesting is that if you hadn't given me that description, I could almost have told you that story.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like you really captured the spirit of your experience, as well as no doubt what the experience was of those people that had experienced that before, if that makes any sense.
Well, and what I just saw, and I've never seen this before, which is one of the things I do like about my paintings, is I often see things, and this was probably close to 15 years ago that I painted it. Mm-hmm. Up on the left, it almost looks like the boat river of the River Styx, with some people in there going to the other side. Mm-hmm. You're talking about right up in this area here. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I've never noticed that before, but there it is.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's what I paint. That's what I teach. It's all about creativity and not having, for me, it's like as soon as I have an idea in my head of what I want to paint. Mm-hmm. So I was painting a white serpent one time.
You were painting a white serpent?
It was a cobra, a white cobra. And I was going to a retreat with my art teacher, and he said, well, you're in your head. I can see you're in your head. You're thinking about this snake. He goes, so get rid of it. So I came back to Sedona, and I was painting in my studio, and I kept hearing dolphin. I'm like, no, it's the white cobra. Dolphin. I'm like, no, it's the white cobra. And when I stepped back, there were dolphins. Definitely. I'm like, okay, dolphin. So that's when I stopped trying to decide what I was going to paint and just allow it to come through.
Wow. So your inspiration then comes from what? Whatever pops into your head, or is it?
I usually put music on and I dance and I just paint.
Right.
And again, sometimes like if I travel, the first time I came to Sedona, she definitely showed up in like my next 3 paintings. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll focus on something for inspiration, and if it shows up, it shows up. If it doesn't, it just kind of is what shows up. So the more that I just get out of my head, I'll do a meditation before I paint. And then I sing and I dance, and I pay less attention to the painting than dancing and having a good time.
Wow. I envy that. I envy the ability to be able to be so free in your painting. When I paint, I tend to get wrapped up in my head too much. I think I don't know where I picked this up from. I haven't been an artist for years. I kind of picked up a paintbrush not that long ago, maybe a year or so ago, after, maybe a 40-year gap in between. So it was a very long time between, high school and the time I started painting again. And for me, I tend to want to paint realistic. Mm-hmm. Which is hard, because when you want to paint realistic, it almost inhibits your ability to be creative.
Yes and no. I mean, I've seen your paintings and they're beautiful, and that your creativity comes from making them look so alive and just allowing that to come through, because I've seen people who do realistic, and they're I call dead paintings. They don't move. They're not alive. They're just kind of blah. Yours are just like, I can see the fish swimming. I can see that. Was it the whale that you did?
Oh yeah, my whale. That's
yeah. And it's that whale's alive. Well, that's creativity. Yeah, that's creativity. Most people can't paint like that. So see, and I envy you too, because I was like, gosh, I wish mine were more realistic, but that's, I try, but that's not my style. So and I go in my head and that's why I paint with my fingers a lot, because then it gets me out of as soon as I pick up a paintbrush, I start to go into my head. So I do a lot with paint, with sponges, and a lot with my hands. I paint a lot with my hands.
And do you you primarily paint with acrylic, or what do you paint with?
Acrylic.
Have you tried oil?
No, I paint very fast.
Okay.
And so I love acrylic because they dry fast. Oils, I would probably have a big brown mess with oils. I would like to learn how to finish in oil because it gives it that pop.
Right.
But I haven't played with that yet. I've tried watercolors, but again, you have to think too much for watercolors.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you want to work quick, definitely acrylic, because it also gives you the bold color too, right? I mean, your paintings are bold in color. Did I lose you, Sheryl? Oh no, geez, I hope I didn't lose you. Well, what I was going to say, I don't know if Sheryl just, oh, there you are. I don't know if it's the internet connection tonight or what, and I don't know if you can still hear me. It looks like you froze again. But what I was going to say is that, there we go.
We're back.
Wonderful. It's been an interesting evening as far as computers go. I don't know if it's the full moon or what's going on.
That's right. It is a full moon. It's the ghost that's waiting to come through.
You know what? It hasn't gone off yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. But no, what I was saying is that with acrylics, right? They dry fast, like you were saying. You do get that bright color, but because they dry so fast, for me, sometimes it's difficult then to blend. Especially with a larger canvas. How large of a canvas have you ever worked on?
Oh, well, there's that one behind me. That's one of the biggest.
What is that? Is that larger than that's larger than a 16 by 20, right?
Yeah, that's like I think like a 50.
Oh wow, okay.
30 by 50-ish. Yeah, it's a big one. It's just so far away.
Right. Yeah, it looks small. It looks so tiny.
Yeah. It's pretty big. But yeah, so I tend to like paint sections at a time, and then some paintings turns out to have like 4 different paintings within a painting because I'm so focused on like one portion at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you wouldn't be able to do that with like watercolor. You're right with watercolor because that's for me, that's tricky. I think there's probably artists out there where it's really, really easy to work with. And then of course, oil painting that I find, having dabbled in it, to be really, really nice for blending.
Yeah.
But you really do have to let things dry. And it's really interesting too, Sheryl, that this is one of the things that I found working in oil specifically is, unlike acrylics where you would work light to dark, with oil, you have to work dark to light.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't know much about oils. I've not even dabbled with them.
Trust me, I didn't know that either, which is why the first 2 I did went by hell, right? It's just, you don't know until you try it.
But see, with acrylics, you can go either way. Watercolors, you've got to go light to dark.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But acrylics, because you can put white on black, or you can put black on white.
Right.
So that's why I love them. And then if you don't like what you're doing, you just keep painting. And then you're like, oh, well, that worked out well.
Right.
Yeah. Some of my mistakes turn out to be like my favorite spot once I like wipe it away and just kind of mess with it. And then, it turns out to be my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're doing, I am so impressed. I mean, I looked at your website, and I'll bring it up on your screen for people to, and this is because you also, one of your other not side businesses, I don't know, is this your main business, your paint and play?
We're we're working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, folks, visit this website, because not only does she advertise her paint and play there in Sedona, but she's got a nice gallery section of some of her artwork, including the 4 that I showed tonight. But really, really amazing pieces, Sheryl. I think that you have a real, not only don't you have a talent for it, but just the striking nature of what you're painting. And you can, for me, I can feel this connection with what I would call, and this is a word that I used recently, or that I picked up when I was in Sedona not that long ago, the Great Spirit.
Yes.
You know, and I think you living in Arizona, where you're living, I think that there's a real, for me, when I was there, I felt a real connection there to the land and to that area. But I think that you somehow are able to bring that and really put that into your works of art. And it's just amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting because something just came through, but it talks about, instead of looking at my art as art, I need to start looking at it as energy. Because, and I started working with energy in about the same time I started painting. I started working with a biofeedback device, which is energy and frequency and sound frequency and healing frequencies. And so even when I do the drawings, the intuitive drawings, I've been told by several people that they can feel the energy permeating off of the picture. And so you can use those for healing too. So I've had people hold it over their hearts and it's shifted their moods. And so like, my paintings don't sell real well because it takes a certain person that can handle that energy. Because there's a lot of energy in those paintings, and so I need to paint some that are a little more toned down, is what I was getting today. Just a little, no, not quite as in your face energy. Well, yeah, they're energy, high vibrational energy.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really interesting point. And I think I spoke, you know, Carrie Betts, she's a mutual friend of ours. Yeah, I had a conversation with her about a month ago, and I think we touched briefly on energy and spiritual aspects of art and things like this. And really, you're right in that you fit nicely into that discussion, because I think that, you know, when we talk about energy and we talk about art, I think, unfortunately, I think most people don't really understand that connection between the two. And I would argue that those folks that really understand what art is, and I'm not necessarily referring to professional artists, because I think if I pick up a box of crayons and I sit down and I'm drawing what other people would think is a scribble, and yet I am connecting with what I'm doing, to me, that's art.
Yes.
You know, there would be folks that would argue that, but I think they're missing the point of what art is. I think art is that expression of spirit in terms of that energy connection. So when you're talking about that, the feeling that's obviously in your art and some of the impacts that it has on people, I think that that's a very valid statement. And I think that if there's anybody that happens to be listening that might think, well, that's a bunch of hooey, I would challenge them to really take a look at what you're doing, or really just sit down and take a look at the Mona Lisa, or sit down and take a look at, or lay down and take a look at the Sistine Chapel or something like that, because that connection exists there as well.
Right. Well, you know, when you get an emotional response, when you're looking at the Mona Lisa, or you hear a piece of music or a poem, or we used to listen to, I don't know if you know who, I'm thinking Hafez, but it's Rumi, the poetry of Rumi. He's a Persian poet. My art teacher is from Iran, so he used to read us the poetry in its native language. We have no idea what he's saying, but it would evoke a response, an emotional response. Or if you're listening to Spanish music and you're getting an emotional response, that's the energy. That's the energy you're connecting to. Because if you don't understand the words, it's definitely not the words. Or if you're listening to just music without words, Spanish guitar, classical music, and it evokes a response or an emotion, that's because you're connecting with that energy.
Yeah.
And again, like you're saying, it's all comes, most of the best things that we listen to, see, hear, it comes from spirit. It's channeled. It's not from the thinking mind. We can learn technique, but to really connect, and like you do with your work, like you connect with those animals that you're painting. It's like because you can see the soul of the animal, and that's where your beauty comes out, because you can see how alive they are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know when I'm, when I'm doing the pet portraits, which I haven't done in a while. There are times, not all the time, but most of the time I do feel, especially when they're done and I step back and I look and I'm like, oh my heavens, I actually somehow captured the essence of that animal and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's
you're connecting to their spirit.
Yeah.
You're bringing their spirit through.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't do that. So when you say that you have a challenge with that creative aspect, you need to get that out of your head, because you've got it. Your connections just looks different than mine, which looks different than anybody else's too.
So what do
people who do similar work, it's not the same.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. What do we do as artists then? And this is a question that I've asked myself many times, because I struggle with this, is what do we do as artists when we lose that, if only for a short period of time, that ability to connect? Now, for me, I tend to say I'm not inspired, right? Because I might look outside, it's dismal. I've got 6 feet of snow. It's all gray, whatever. Has that happened to you? And then,
I've gone years without painting.
Okay.
Or I'm not inspired to paint, but I'm inspired to draw.
Okay. So you just look for some other inspiration to fill that gap then in the short term, or?
Yeah. Or I'll just go play outside or take a nap. It's when you try to force it, or for me, if I try to force it, it doesn't work.
Okay. Now, is that one of the reasons why you moved to Sedona?
No, I lived in LA and I just had to get out of the city.
Okay.
And honestly, I didn't know where to go. And I was on a spiritual retreat in Mount Shasta, and I met a gal and she said, I'm moving to Sedona. You should come with me. And I went, okay. And she didn't end up coming, but I did. Okay. And I was definitely supposed to be here. I've been here over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love it. I actually live right outside Sedona in the valley. And I love it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a special place.
Right. So for inspiration though, just let it come when it's ready.
Yeah. Or, it's like, do things that make you happy.
Right.
I'll go down to the river, or I'll go down to the park. I have a park here, and I go sit on the swings. I'll go swing and go for a walk. Just, inspiration doesn't have to come through every single day in the artwork. It might come through just picking up the phone and talking to someone I haven't talked to in a long time.
Right.
Or, they just kind of work gardening, Sometimes I'll just need to go outside and connect with nature and fix my yard and trim my trees, and whatever is calling me is that creativity for the day. That's my inspiration, whatever is calling me that day. And it might be nothing. It might be just a day of me sitting and relaxing.
Yeah, or it might be something that'll spark an idea, right? And then next thing you know, you've got that brush in your hand and you're painting another beautiful painting.
Yeah. I just allow. And this is what I teach as well. It's all about the creativity. It's not about trying to make a painting. And I don't have the technical background to do that, but it'll show up if I allow it. And then just in life, it's very equivalent to life. It's like the more I push and the more I try to make something happen, the less that happens, the more frustrated I get.
Right.
So when I try to make something happen on the canvas, the more blocked it is and the less it actually shows up and the more frustrated I get.
Right.
And then I put it aside. And there's paintings that I have in my garage I've had for years, and I'll pull it out one day and go, oh, that's what it needs. And then I'll keep painting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've got stacks of paintings. If anyone needs one, come on out. Send you home with some paintings.
Oh, I love that. All right, Sheryl. So how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to get a hold of you?
The best way is through the website, paintandplaysedona.com.
There it is.
Yeah. So my phone number's on there, my email. There's a contact sheet. You can just fill that out. Okay. And I'll get back to you pretty quickly.
Awesome. All right. Well, I can't believe that this half an hour went by that.
Wow. You did.
So I know we had a little bit of a technical issue up front, and I know that this never did make it to Facebook, which is unfortunate, but the beauty of it is I can push this right over to Facebook right after this, and then hopefully people will watch it, because I'll be honest with you, this was a great conversation we had, and hopefully we can connect back up, because I'd love to have you back on, because I've got a ton more questions.
Okay.
I'd love to toss your way.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, have confidence, because you did an outstanding job for your first live interview.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
What's
that?
I said, I am a talker.
You are, but you do it very, very well. And that's a great thing. That's a great skill to have.
Thank you very much.
All right.
It's been a pleasure. I'll see you soon.
All right. Just hang on one second and I will be right back. Thank you so very much for joining me on the Art Talk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know. See ya.